show, we are going to break down a story creator format that we saw live here at Inbound that anyone can use to grow their brand on YouTube, on TikTok, on any online channel. And you're going to want to stick around because we actually break down and critique our own live performance at Inbound on the live podcast that you saw earlier this week. Kieran, we're in person.
We're in person.
Hey, what's up? Like, we're fist bump. Like, I'm not used to being able to like actually like
physically touch
you, like actually like maybe look you in the eye a little bit.
And if you listen
Crazy.
to the Tuesday show, one thing I did for the next live show is I removed my pinky ring because it went all over Twitter. My team saw that and started slacking me this morning all over my Slack messages. So
are you serious?
Yeah,
was your team
like,
at Zapier was making fun of your pinky ring?
With a pinky ring. I was like, actually, that's an interesting take. That's
I like that somehow the pinky ring is worse than the tennis playing robot.
It's my favorite ring. I'm coming. It's coming back. It's
but the fact that's worse than the fact that you have a tennis playing robot named Timmy.
That is. People have asked me about my tennis playing robot. I have to now, after being in the States this week and hearing so much about pickleball.
Oh yeah.
Figure out if I can get a pickleball playing robot. That seems like the move.
That seems like really lazy because pickleball's not that hard.
No, it doesn't look that hard.
But you should play pickleball.
Way smaller courts.
All right, so we're here live at the Creators Cafe at Inbound, HubSpot's event in Boston. And Kieran, you saw a creator that we're both fans of live here at Inbound, and you WhatsApped me and you're like, oh, it kind of struck me how powerful but how simple his framework for storytelling is. And I want you to break down for everybody who we're talking about here, what you saw, what happened.
Right. We have Kipp and I were on stage, and immediately after, one of my favorite content creators come on. His name is Stephen Bartlett. He has one of the most popular podcasts in Europe, 35 million monthly downloads. That's not the only thing he does, but he originated from social media, and the thing that he excels at is content creation. And he really has an incredible formula. I watched him for 30 minutes, and I was trying to extract what he was doing really well. And it was 4 clear steps that he did time and time again. So I want to break it down, give you each of the steps, and then let you react to it.
All right, let's do it.
First one is something that you and I love. Frameworks.
I love a good framework.
He started every single point with a simplistic framework. The framework was really well branded, and it was concise and clear. It was not overly complex. You did not need to be some sort of data scientist to figure out what he was talking about. So that is really the first thing.
Do you have an example of one of the ones he did? Can you remember?
I can't remember.
You can't remember. That's why I have to.
Okay,
I was like, clearly
but the reason I can't remember is because I was not taking notes. Now, he did have one about he had one about leadership, the three categories of leadership. I can't remember the exact phrasing, but let me give you the framework. Yeah. So he had the way that he structures his team and figures out how to figure out who should be in the team, who should not. He talks about bar raisers. And you are either someone who raises the bar, and for that person, he tries to promote them. Yep. You are someone who just keeps the bar where it is, and for those people, he tries to coach them, or you are someone that actually lowers the bar for the entire team, and that person he has to manage out. So what he does is he asks himself, is this person a bar raiser? Are they going to maintain the bar where it is, or are they going to lower the bar? And what he asks himself is, if we level set the entire team to that person's performance, does the team go up, stay the same, or go down? I thought that was a great simplistic framework.
Super clear framework.
That is really easy to action. I thought straight away I went home actually and did that a little 3x2 quadrant.
Yeah.
And actually started to think about even my team.
You did it, I thought you were going to say you did it for your family. You were like, like Buddy the dog, bar lower.
Yeah.
He makes the house a mess.
Mom lowers the bar for everyone, underperforming. That quadrant, need to manage mom out.
Sister, sorry.
Sister, no, I'm not going to make it. She's a bar maintainer. I need to coach her to be better. But that's a really great way, right? When you're actually trying to hire someone or someone in your team, if we set the entire culture of the team to their performance, are we raising the bar, keeping the bar the same, or lowering the bar? So I actually lied because I did remember a framework.
You definitely remember
everything about it.
You just dropped a great
I just proved my
course.
point. Simplistic framework. I just can't remember the exact name of what he called it.
Yeah, but what you're saying is it's not just about having a framework or a device when you're telling a great story. It's about making it very, very simple.
Right.
And so simple that even you, when you're not taking notes, can remember it.
Right? Yeah,
exactly.
It does not overcomplicate something. Yep. The thing that I really took away as well is it's brandable, right? He had brandable terms, consistent framework. So that is really the first one. You and I know this. We always try to have, even in our inbound live session we did yesterday, we had the 3 Ps, right? And we tried to brand each one with personality-led growth, profits make profits, and then have a clear framework attached to that. And I thought he did a masterful job of answering every single question with a clear and simplistic, concisely put together framework.
Yep. All right. So he had the clear framework. That's one thing that he did. What else?
Number two. This is where you and I think, can get better.
Yeah, we're not good at this part.
We do good, not great. He brings the framework to life with an incredible story. And that story is always told through the eyes of a famous personality. He talked about an Olympic team. He talked about a scientist. He talks about someone who demonstrated that. And they can make it really real and tangible because it gives you the real example of someone bringing that to life. Whether in that case of the 3 categories that I went through in terms of how you structure and build an effective team, he actually talked about a CEO who did that very thing, right? So he brings it to life with all of these stories. And the thing that you and I have always talked about when we see great content creators is they're able to extrapolate every point they make by telling a story of a real life example when this was brought to life for them and they witnessed it being done. And I think that actually sticks with people much more than kind of just the informational that you give about that framework.
Right, yeah. That you help people retain that framework and actually use it through that story, right? Because the story is the device in which they can remember it, internalize it, understand how they're going to use it. You were last night. You and I actually got to sit down together. You were having a nice glass of Pinot Noir.
A glass of Pinot. I deserved it. I really deserved it.
And you told me that, and
I had a ball left up.
I immediately had like a kind of a counterintuitive feeling and thought, which is you and I, and a lot of people I think who create, we start with the framework or we start with the idea, and then we try to figure out a story.
Right.
The story is actually more important. We actually need to start with the story and then work from there to whatever framework or point we're trying to make. I think we don't do a good enough job of like packaging our stories and kind of having a running list of stories that have real emotional resonance to them.
We don't. So the best content
maybe because we're devoid of emotion and feelings, I don't know.
Or devoid of human. I did think about this. Maybe me.
I was like, are we just bad people?
Maybe me not wanting to interact with humans is like
coming back
a detraction from actually having stories. Like that's why all my stories about my tennis robot or about my dogs. But all of the best content creators do one thing to like really excel here. I know Sam Parr, when I got to know him, talked about this, and others have talked about this. They keep a notepad with them at all times, and when something comes up in their day, they actually like write that story down, right? So it could be something mundane that happened to them, but they're actually able to say, wow, there's like an actual moment of learning within this that I could actually turn into something content for my audience, right? And so I think that's like one way to do it is just getting better at being able to like spot those moments where there's an incredible thing that you've like witnessed, and you can extrapolate that into like a teaching moment, a learning moment.
I love that. And I think that's something anybody can do. It's like, how can you log the stories you're trying to tell? And so stories and incorporating stories into any show, any piece of marketing content, whatever that may be, is just number one cheat code to get resonance, get emotion, get engagement.
Right.
All right, so that was number 2. Before we get to number 3, I have to ask the YouTube audience a question. I have to ask you the question. Do you think Kieran is taller or shorter than you expected? The reason I asked this question is because this week at Inbound, many people have come up to him telling him both of those things. Multiple people have come up to you in my presence being like, you're much shorter than I thought. And then multiple people have come up, you're much taller than I thought. And I was like,
I take zero offense.
And I was like, I don't know how both of these things exist.
Like, I think people think when I'm on...
So drop a comment if he's taller or shorter than you thought.
I do wear platforms to try to make myself a little bit taller. I think people think when I'm actually on the Zoom, like I'm actually standing up when I'm actually sitting. I'm sitting down. I'm not that short. But no, that is the thing that actually I met people here for the first time that I have worked with for years. The only thing that is really different is like you really can't tell the height because everyone is sitting down. That is the biggest thing.
All right, so YouTube comment is Kieran taller or shorter than you thought? Okay, so we talked simple frameworks. We talked storytelling. What's Stephen Bartlett's third key secret here?
Okay. He always, and we talked about this in the little prep that we did right before we went on stage, every segment needs to end with an actionable takeaway. People actually want to take something away from your talk that they feel they can actually implement within their own business, within their own careers. If they have not done that, they do not think the content.
Yeah, they don't think that you were valuable.
Yeah, it's not valuable to them. It's just like it just goes out of their brain. And so he did a great job of him bringing it to life with that kind of brandable framework, telling the story, and then leaving you with a clear, actionable takeaway. Like, here is the thing that you can do tomorrow to start to implement that. The example I did was I actually went away and built that 3x2 quadrant. Now, part of that is because I'm a nerd and I love building 2x2s. By the way, I have an incredible 2x2 about product marketing and brand that we should do a show on.
Oh, okay.
I sent myself an email.
Spoiler alert.
That was part of our conversation and another conversation we had. So that's going to be for our audience. But I think that is the core thing. If you want to have people feel like they got value from the 30 minutes that they spent with you, there has to be a takeaway in terms of how they feel they can implement that in their own work or in their own career. And I think you have to always think about, what are my audience going to do because of this, right? Like, that's the question I would ask us after our show. Like, what are our audience going to do because of what we've told them? Do they think about something differently? Are they going to implement something differently within their business or career? And the more we do that, the more I think that the audience are going to find the content more valuable.
Okay, so on the actual takeaway, I think this is one of those things where people are like, duh, of course you need to have an actual takeaway. I think what people think are actionable takeaways normally aren't actionable takeaways.
Right.
They're like, oh, I gave you a takeaway. You're like, no, what are you
Delegate more. I hear people like, how do you be a better leader? Delegate more.
Well,
okay.
I think, well, that's the thing. I think people confuse advice with actionable takeaways.
I love that.
People do not want advice. They want a prescriptive thing to go and do.
Right.
Right? And the difference between advice and an actual takeaway is, I'm going to give you something so specific that it will be clear that you have done it or not. There will be like a true binary if you have done it or not.
Okay.
Right?
I have many things to say on this.
You just gave me that.
Yeah,
I got up in the chair.
So this is actually part of the problem with most people who work in tech who set goals. It's like, if you can't articulate whether you have done that thing or not and it was successful or not, then you don't even have a real goal. You might not even have a real job. Right?
No, but
and
you're
there's
right.
so many, and I'm telling you, it sounds so simplistic. I spend so many time with companies and I go through like, what are their team's goals? And they're like, we plan to blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, how do you know?
Activities are not goals. Activities are not goals, everyone.
So how do you know if you did that or not? Like, articulate to me, like, what does it look like if you did that? What changes if you did that? Well, unsure. And then tell me how you know if it was successful and impactful. And it's so simplistic, to your point, but I think something for it to be actionable, you have to be able to articulate whether you did it or not and it was impactful or not.
Correct.
So I think it was a great point.
All right, so that's the keys to actionable takeaways. That's secret number 3 from Steve Bartlett. All right, what's the last one?
The last one actually was harder to pick up on, but I really
I like a little subtle
I
secret.
actually think it was like really subtly done, where he always ended with making you feel like you were on the opposing side, or you were in the secret crowd, right? He was like, most people don't even understand this and never do it. And
but you're listening to me. You understand it, and you're going to go to do it, right?
I'm teaching it to you because you are on the inner circle. And I love that. He did that at least 3 times where he talked about, this is counterintuitive to popular opinion. Most people do this. Here's why they're wrong. Here's their framework. Here's their story where I saw that happen. Here's the actionable takeaway. And this is why it truly matters, because if you do this thing, you're on the inner circle. You're in the crew who knows this and actually can put that to work.
So he's great at helping people understand that they're in on the secret.
In
right?
On the
they're
secret.
in on
part
the
of his
secret.
tribe.
Yes, and it's like, not only are they in on his secret, but if they're in on his secret, they are going to be successful when the rest of the world is not going to be successful, right?
Exactly.
So do you feel like people, like you were in a crowd, your brothers, everybody listening to this, do you feel like people were more likely to go and take his advice because of that kind of letting them in on the secret crowd?
Yeah, my 2 brothers watched it with me. We actually hung out, watched it, and there was like 3 things my brother took from it. He was like, wow, I that has changed the way that I even think about how I approach things. Like, he had this like incredible story where he talked about how easy it is for humans' perception of things to change over time. So he talked about his childhood, where the first time he ever got onto a plane was 20 years old. Actually very similar to me. We didn't have a lot of money when we were growing up. Never went on holidays. First time I went on a plane was when I was 21. And then 5 years later, he is running a very successful company and he's flying business class. And he's like, when I get into business class, the 10th, the 20th time, I'm throwing all my things on the top. I've got my space laptop. I'm on my laptop and I'm just in the work. And he looked over and there's a couple and it's their first time on business and they're like drinking their champagne. They're really experiencing the experience. They're like, look at the space. And he's like, we forget the first time we experience that because when you experience many more times, your perception of that changes. And I think that's an incredible lesson to learn and like resonate with people. And again, he had a great story and he had a takeaway from that. And we scribbled the notes and it's another one that kind of really, it's one that I will put into action in many ways. And I think, again, coming back, he had an incredible formula and was a great example of a content creator understanding how to deliver for an audience.
Right. Clear framework, right? Step 1, have a super clear framework. Step 2, have a really emotional, compelling story, right?
Right.
Step 3 was, do you remember?
Actionable takeaway.
Actionable takeaways.
And then 4 was the contrarian view.
Yeah,
You're on
let them in on the secret
You're part
contrarian
of the
view,
internal,
right?
You're part of the internal tribe.
Okay.
That is the 4-step masterclass from Stephen Bartlett. If you want 35 million downloads a month, if you want a successful business when you are in your early 20s, if you want to, he had a great story where he got paid $8 million in stock for a company to do 6 months of consultant work, right? All of this is because he truly understands how to elicit emotion and deliver content.
Totally agree. Okay, so that's we're gonna do before we end the show. We did our first live pod a couple of days yesterday. It was yesterday. Geez. Yesterday, first live pod. It aired earlier this week.
Just a couple of thousand people.
Yeah, few thousand people live listening to the show. What was your feedback? Like, what would you do different? Let's take people behind the scenes. Like, let's do a public criticism of ourselves.
I might prep to see how long it takes us to deliver the content and not work it out live when we're doing it.
Dude, you talked fast, man.
Okay, do you know what I would talk?
So, I think you just came out a little hot out of the gate, my friend.
So 2 things happened. I came out really hot because, first of all, it takes us like 5-10 minutes to warm up normally.
Yeah, we do a little warm up.
I'm going to come out and hit these.
You were backstage and you were like, I got to get my energy going. I got this. And you got it a little too much.
And then we were like 30 minutes. We had like 30 minutes, and usually we have like an unlimited amount of time. And so I'm like, we have to get through this in 30 minutes. So I'm going to just like go motoring through all this content. And then we started too fast, went too fast through it. But I still think we pulled it back. We missed a couple of the actionable takeaways going through the formula. And that was really the stories. I think there was
I think we had a couple of places where we missed great stories show to really like nail and land the takeaways.
To get an A, like I think for our first time doing it live.
Yeah, what grade did you give us?
I'm like a B-.
I thought we were a solid B.
Yeah, but we're pessimist optimist. Which one? You're the optimist. I'm the pessimist. You know that.
I know. So all right. So you're B-. I'm a B. I think we definitely came hot out from the start, and it's hard to manage visuals, do the live, not worry.
You see me like the whole. I kept looking back to see if the slide was up.
So if you're on the YouTube and you want to see something funny, watch the show from Tuesday when we're live at Inbound. Kieran is spending half the time watching himself on the screen behind him.
I was trying to see if the visual was on the screen, and then I got really distracted by myself on the screen.
That is total bullshit.
It's like,
I saw you, and it was freaking me out. I was like, what terrible thing is happening behind me? Because he keeps looking behind me. And it turns out you were just so
I was checking out my
narcissistic. You were looking at yourself.
I was like, my pinky ring's looking good here. Sneakers looking good. What are we talking about again? Wait a minute. Where am I?
I really did sometimes think, I was like, does he understand what we're talking about? I don't know. All right. So we're going to do more live pods. We're going to do more in-person pods. I would love a comment. Do you like it when we're live together, or do you like when we're in our separate little rooms doing the show? What format of the show do you like better? Leave a comment in YouTube.
I'd love it live. We're going to do a 3-month Airbnb south of France.
South of France?
Fly people out.
Sounds fantastic.
Sounds fantastic.
Sign me up. I thought you were going to say I was moving to Ireland, and I was like, no, it's too rainy there.
It's too rainy there. You don't want to move there.
All right. So that's our quick critique of our first live show. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. We'll be back with you real soon on Marketing Against the Grain.
This data is wrong every freaking time.
Have you heard of HubSpot? HubSpot is a CRM platform where everything is fully integrated.
Whoa, I can see the client's whole history, calls, support tickets, emails, and Here's a task from 3 days ago I totally missed.
HubSpot. Grow better.